Yes.
And we've got Christopher Sabat, who voices.
Sabat.
Sorry, Christopher Sabat, who voices Vegeta.
I'm giving you a hard time. There's a story behind this. I'm giving you a hard time. There's a story behind it. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Christopher Sabat. I'm the voice of Vegeta in Dragon Ball Super.
He said you had a story. No story?
No, the story is that everyone, since we got on Dragon Ball, going back 18 years, no one has ever mispronounced my last name. They'll say Skahemel, but they usually just say Shamel, and they'll call him Sabat. And it's Sabat and Shemel, and everywhere we go, we're like, I don't know if it's because it seems more honorific or fancy, but we correct people, and no matter what, they still keep doing it. So when you get Sabat, I went, it's Sabat, and then you go, I go, it's Sabat, and you go, it's Sabat twice. I thought, oh my God.
Sabat, and then Shemel.
It's not a big deal, it's just funny to us. That's
Shemel and Sabat.
Yeah, it's very simple.
And then Jason Douglas.
Yeah, Jason Douglas. Yeah, no.
Do you want me to pronounce it that way?
You can call me Jason. That's fine. Yeah.
And you are voicing Beerus, correct?
Not currently, but I do voice Beerus Saturday nights on Cartoon Network.
Wonderful.
That's where I'm standing. I do my role live. These guys pre-record, but I can't work like that. So,
yeah, he's method.
That's right.
He's a real actor. We're just booth guys. No.
You guys just are here for the fun. That's about it.
Well, yeah, pretty much, yes.
Now, how are you guys enjoying your Anime Expo? I'm assuming you guys have been many years so far. How do you guys feel this year differs from all the past years?
Well, actually, I was just commenting to my producer that the Dragon Ball turnout for all the licensors and all the properties is bigger than I've ever seen it. It's massive. And Funimation's even taking it up to a high notch with even this massive dragon and the huge billboard outside on the building. It's the biggest showing for Dragon Ball I've ever seen in my entire career. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, it feels as crazy as it did the first time we ever came to Anime Expo. And at that time, this was 10 plus years ago, when I didn't really even know what most of the shows were. And so it was just this
now you're in all of them.
Yeah, it's just a giant mystery. And now I look around, I'm like, hey, I know that. I jumped in this photo on the way over here. There were a bunch of cosplayers for My Hero Academia, and I just kind of photobombed their photo. And when I walked off, they realized it was me, and everyone went crazy. And it was awesome.
Well, they already got their photo.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But there's so much Dragon Ball Super. I was taking pictures of it. Was standing in one area, and any direction I turned, there was another Dragon Ball Super or something awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Did you guys see the inflatable Shenron that's outside?
We've seen pictures. I haven't walked past it yet, but I was sent a picture by Scott, and then you sent a picture. Yeah. We've seen pictures of it. I'm going to go buy it later, but yeah, it's amazing.
And Jason, is this your first Anime Expo?
This is not only my first Anime Expo, it's the first anime convention that I've done in about 15 years, and it is overwhelming. It's amazing to see all these fans, and Sean's right. I mean, you see, out of a sea of anime fans, you can see the orange and, the Dragon Ball stuff, so it's amazing.
Yeah.
And would you come back? Are you guys enjoying your time here at AX?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've only been here a couple hours, but yes, generally, especially, I mean, we literally just started today because we were in a different convention for the last 2 days. But we're definitely enjoying it, yes, especially the food trucks.
And, the food trucks are pretty good. What other convention were you guys at?
We were at Denver Comic-Con Friday and Saturday. Wow. And then we flew in Saturday night, and then I drove in, and Chris is from Texas, but I live locally, so.
So you guys are exhausted?
Oh, yes, and we're exhausted, yes. Yes, we are exhausted, yes.
Now, I would like to ask, you guys have been working together for a while, particularly Chris and Sean. Oh, yeah. Have any pranks happened on set? Is there any funny stories?
Chris played a 1.5-year prank on me where he snuck a kazoo into my hotel room in my pants along with the various other items, but didn't bother to tell me he'd snuck into actually sent friends of ours.
Were you wearing the pants?
I wasn't wearing the pants. What happened was when I was leaving the hotel, I'd taken off my pants the first night, and I put on a different pair of pants, and then I went back and I thought, I'm gonna get my keys, and then I went back to stick my hand in the pocket, and I go, what the hell? There's a kazoo here. I thought it appeared, and I'm like, no one's been in my room. And then I started calling the housekeeping staff. Then I left them a note. I translated in Google Translate in Spanish to ask them why they put a kazoo in my pants.
So I can tell you the other side of the story. So Sean was coming in to record. This is back when we were recording Dragon Ball Z Kai. And Sean doesn't at that time, he had this real problem with leaving his credit card
They'd always charge
at hotel.
me too
They
much.
kept overcharging him and stuff like that. So I was like, I'll go do it for you. But then I realized, hey, if I do that, I can actually get a key to Sean's room, and then I'll have a key as well. So this is awesome. So I check him in, and I keep a key for myself. So I gave it to some colleagues like Brina Palencia and her husband Paul, and they snuck in to Sean's room with the instructions to kind of gaslamp him a little,
Weird,
just do little
subtle
tiny
things
things.
that I would go, what?
And one of the things they did was they put a kazoo in his pants. We were done recording, but I told Sean that we had pickup lines the next day because I knew.
We didn't have pickup lines.
Yeah, I knew that he would have a story. And the first thing Sean does, he storms in the room. He's like, Chris, you're not going to believe what happened, man. Someone snuck into my room and put a kazoo in my pants. I go, come on, that's impossible. He goes, are you sure it wasn't yours? He goes, no, I haven't played the kazoo since 1979. I go,
Yeah, I'm like, I knew when I played the kazoo.
I was like, you remember the last time you played a kazoo? But that's crazy.
But the funniest part of the story is that I'd gone back on another trip, and on that same trip, I don't ever change like my laptop bag. I usually leave all the gear in it, and so I don't usually check the pockets. And so one time on this rare weird occasion, I come home from a later trip, and my neighbor was locked out of her apartment, and she calls me and she's like, I'm locked in my apartment. Can I hang out with you until my roommate gets home? I'm like, sure. She goes, my phone's dying. Do you have a charger? So I'm digging through my bag, and I find a tape recorder. And I'm like, I haven't owned a tape recorder since college. And I play it, and it says something in Spanish. And I'm like, what the? And I hear like this weird sound on it. It sounds like a kazoo. and it says something in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, but my neighbor who's hanging out with me is Puerto Rican. So I go, what does it say? What does it say? She goes, it says the kazoo is here. The kazoo is everywhere. I'm sorry. And I'm like, what?
So I can tell you the other side of the story. On another trip that Sean had come down to record, we thought we're going to double down on this prank.
Yeah, double down on it.
Because he still didn't know it was us. In fact, the first time he came, he was so freaked out by it. He was really trying to talk to someone in housekeeping, so I called the hotel
and told
to
them
say,
to
like,
gaslight me.
I said, hey, the guy, this is a dude staying in my room. He's really confused about stuff. He just kind of makes things up in his head. So don't let him talk to anyone, please. So the next time he came down, I met with Brina again for breakfast, and I got this old micro cassette recorder that you used to have in college, like with the little teeny tiny.
Oh yeah,
cassette.
I heard some of your lectures on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
and so we recorded a little Spanish message for him that said.
Were you the one recording in Spanish?
Yes. Yeah. Well, no. Actually, Brina speaks Spanish, so we had her do that. Also, and to kind of wrap this whole story up, eventually, the last time I went to go check him in for this room, the third trip he came down, I was talking to the hotel staff. I'm like, hey, I'm checking in Sean Schimmel. He goes, oh, the kazoo guy, right? And I go, yeah. And I told him the whole story, and they go, that is so funny because now we have this running joke at the hotel where we have this kazoo and we sneak it into people's stuff. And it's become this like hotel-wide prank where they like prank each other.
And the only reason I found out about the prank is because Chris made the mistake of, he got distracted by another actress when he was telling the story on a panel and didn't get to the part where he said, now don't tell Sean this. And so someone tweets me a video of him admitting this. And I was kind of disappointed because I was like, it kind of ruined the joke for me because I was like, oh, wow, it's like this fascinating mystery that I was fascinated with, and I'm like, oh, it's just a Chris prank.
We had a perfect
but
plan
you
for
also
these.
recorded me coming into the studio and telling my story. You had a recorder set up, so when I came and go, oh my God, you're not gonna believe what happened. He recorded that whole thing too, which I have not yet heard. So he's a master pranker.
Who did you think it was before you suspected Chris?
Well, I did suspect Chris right out of the gate, but he was so good at convincing me it wasn't him.
I remember exactly what you said.
What'd I say?
I said, I mean, are you sure it wasn't yours? He goes, no, I wasn't. It's just someone had to have snuck in. I guess. I was like, well, who would do that? He goes, unless it was you. And I go, how could I have done that? We were recording yesterday. He goes, exactly. So it couldn't have been you. And that was it. That was the end. That's all Sean needed.
That's all I needed
to vindicate me. And I was in the clear. We had one more thing planned if a fan hadn't told him. The next time he'd come to town, we had taken photographs of all these things that we'd done to his room. Some of them he probably still doesn't know about. Including the toothbrush that we switched out.
Oh yeah, I think I used that brush.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I did.
But we were gonna do this giant tableau all over the walls, like when a detective in a mystery series or something is trying to figure out the case, he always puts yarn between different.
Oh wow, yeah.
Polaroid photos. We're gonna do that on his wall and then secretly record him as.
Another layer to the joke is I used to store in my apartment building. We had a common storage area and we just all trusted each other. And I kept my luggage in the basement, and I didn't notice in some of the pockets of my luggage you put like a lot of weird Mardi Gras stuff, including some bizarre, lame condoms I've never heard of, such as like fun time, wacky, like they were bizarre, and like gold coins of plastic. And so I thought it was my neighbor had borrowed my luggage, took it to Mardi Gras, and left their condoms and their party gear and all their stuff. I'm like, I would never buy this brand of condom ever. And I was completely disgusted by it. And then later it's like, Chris is like, I did that too. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh, and then there was an envelope of white powder that I thought was anthrax, and it was just like, it was like flour, I think. I think you guys did that. There were so many things they did. I was more fascinated by it than I was mad. And then I had written a lengthy letter to the housekeeping staff. I asked them, why did you put a kazoo in my pants? And I had to translate it. And then I forgot to leave an email address or phone number so she could write me and say, I didn't do that. It was Chris Sabat. No, she.
And Sean kept insisting. He's like, I'm not mad at all.
I wasn't mad.
I just want to know why.
Yeah.
I got to know why it happened.
I just couldn't. I felt like House. I had to know the answer. So I guess we spent too much of this interview on the prank, but it's a good story, and it's a fun memory for us as cast members on the show.
So it sounds like, Jason, you've been free of all the pranking so far?
Yes, as far as I know, yeah, that's it. These guys are great. I come into the studio and it's fantastic. No, I haven't had any sort of like glitter in my air conditioner.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good idea.
Yeah. So
You're prepping them.
right, exactly.
But look at him. He's so tall. We can't prank him.
Right.
He's got a teenage kid though. Almost. We could collude with the children to prank him.
You
That's
could,
true.
You would happily go along. I promise you. Right.
Well, have you had any favorite moments on set so far joining the cast?
As far as recording, you know what? Honestly, just getting to be a part of this cast and being invited to play this incredible character is a honor for me. Obviously, I didn't create the character, but I get to lend his English language voice, and just really learning about the culture around Dragon Ball and how it's been such an important part of a lot of kids' childhoods who are now grown-ups and have kids of their own. I met somebody just today who said, my dad got me into Dragon Ball when I was a kid because he was a fan, and now we're both fans. So that's really amazing. I mean, I've been doing anime voices for a long time, but I've never done Dragon Ball. It's on its own level.
It's actually pretty remarkable because Sean and I thought that we were in like the first wave of anime voice actors in Texas, but actually there was a group that in Houston that was dubbing at the same time that we were, and he was in that. You were in the very original crew of people,
right?
At AD Vision.
We at ADV Films, and we were doing a huge sort of variety of content, but you guys were doing Dragon Ball, you know, and I mean that's the difference. So,
yeah, it's this worldwide phenomenon that I don't know if it's Akira Toriyama's genius or or what, but it just seems to keep going. And like Jason was saying, more and more often do I meet family after family who have children named Gohan. Their pets are named Goku. They insist on ingraining, like, no, I make them watch it. I am ingraining the values of Dragon Ball. They're like hardcore. We're like terrified of them in a good way. Like, wow, you're serious as a heart attack about this. So
How do you feel about that? Like, seeing how big it's grown?
It's overwhelming, and also I've been playing the character for so long that oftentimes I forget I play the character, and I will get recognized, and I'm that guy. Oh yes, I forgot, because there's not a day that goes by in my life for the last 18 years where the word Goku doesn't happen in my language or in my voice, or coming out of my voice, or something Dragon Ball related in my house every day. It happened. It's something I live with all the time. Same with Chris. And now Jason's going to do it for the next 25 years. You're stuck with us now.
I'll be calling you when I have these moments.
Oh yeah, they are overwhelming. I remember early on when the first time I walked in, it was in 1999 or 2000. First time I walked into a Target and they were playing Dragon Ball on all the TVs, and I hear my voice going all through the store. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Then I hear this another version of my voice coming from the toy section. I go there and some kid's punching a Goku bag that says, "I will not let you beat me. I'm going to win this fight," over and over. Now, the funny part of that story is my mom decided to buy that because it had my voice in it. No, but here's the best part. It's motion activated, and we took a trip for a family reunion to Iowa, driving from Texas to Iowa, and every time we hit a bump, it was like, "I will not let you beat me. I'm going to win this fight," all the way to Iowa, because you couldn't shut it off. I hated my voice by the time we got to Iowa, which is where I was born, by the way. But yeah, so we could show my grandmother Sean's voice is in a punching bag. So the best word to describe it is huge and surreal, and I happen to love both of those things. So it's the best experience of my life. It's great.
Now, is there anything, you've mentioned this punching bag that had your voice. Was there anything, what's the weirdest thing you guys have seen that emulated your character? Oh,
that our character or had our voices in it? Just anything?
Either one.
Oh, counterfeit toys. The counterfeit are hilarious. They have you have a good story about this. You have, or the original Malaysian situation where they're like, you are stronger than that guy. What was it?
Probably the
funniest?
funniest thing that's just kind of not even. My voice isn't in it, but I'd say if you want to see something really funny, if you look up the Malaysian dub of Dragon Ball Z, it happened around the same time we were dubbing in America. It was like for Southeast Asia or something like that, and it had all these English as a second language actors on it, and it is hysterically funny to watch. In fact, I have.
Why you cause all the trouble?
Yeah, goes, why are you cause all the trouble? And he goes, you are the one that caused the trouble.
And they just go back and forth arguing about who's causing the trouble.
But my friends know that I love really bad stuff, like I really like cheesy things. So they send me terrible fake toys from all over the place, which I later share with the licensing department to show them. Like, here's another fake toy. But yeah, someone sent me these really terrible looking Goku and Vegeta. Like they're made out of wood and they look kind of like nutcrackers, but they're not nutcrackers. They just look like terrible like wooden Goku and Vegetas. But it's remarkable. You see it all over the place, all over the world.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I was at a con and posed with a fan who had some Beerus thing, and it was just a quick, let's take a picture together, boom. And I got scolded on the internet by somebody who's like, why is the voice actor that plays Beerus posing with sort of fake merchandise, like non-licensed merch? I don't know what that was about. But I think the coolest mashup was, and I actually have the shirt of this, there's an artist who made a t-shirt, and it's basically a mashup of Beerus and Lion Cat from Saga. And he's just saying pudding instead of liar or lion. It's great though. And it actually works. There's kind of an uncanny resemblance.
The mashups are hilarious. Yeah, the mashups are great, especially on Xenoverse. Some of the highly inappropriate mashups, which I'm not going to go into, but those of you who play Xenoverse have seen them, are hilarious to me. And the kids just do crazy stuff with it. It's just something that doesn't end. I don't even understand. I don't think I'll understand it before I'm dead. But
I'm starting to understand it now, because we go to all these conventions week after week, and kids come up to us and they say, we ran home from school every day to watch this. And if they say, and the ones who said, I couldn't get home fast enough, are the ones who said they watched Yu Yu Hakusho, which came on right afterwards. So
the
slower kids watch. The kids who couldn't run as fast or live farther from their bus stop had to watch Yu Yu Hakusho. So
if you're fast, you get to watch Dragon Ball.
We're just at this perfect age where the kids who were watching Dragon Ball Z furiously when they were kids are now the perfect age to be going to Comic Cons. They're all in their 20s and stuff.
I always like to say I'm a member of the greatest rock band in the world that doesn't play music. Because, I mean, it's just what it feels like. And this crew, it was just, we're like in a huge rock band, and we don't do music, and we fight like rock bands do, and we love each other like rock bands do. We scream like rock bands do, because we're always screaming in the mic, but we don't sing any songs. I mean, we're all musicians, most of us, but we don't, perform for a living, and that's what it feels like for me, except we, minus a lot of, all the other weird things that happen with rock bands, such as cocaine and hotel rooms and crazy stuff like that. We don't do any of that because we're pretty straight-laced guys with families, but all the other.
Except you guys do pranks.
Yeah, we do pranks. That's our party is pranks. We're not doing real rock star stuff, which I don't recommend. But
now, Jason, since you came into Dragon Ball as it is, how big it's gotten, was there anything you did special to prepare to be the English voice of Beerus?
Well, I just feel like my whole career was sort of preparing me to do this role in some ways. I've had a lot of opportunities to do roles that are completely different from the natural voice that I have. And, I think coming into Dragon Ball, I had been doing a lot of video games at the time, so I'd been doing a lot of screaming and guttural, and I realized to be a part of the Dragon Ball team, that really has to be, you got to be on your A game. With the battle screams. So
do you have like a favorite battle scream by chance?
Wow. Let's see. Out of all the characters, or just of Beerus?
And whichever one's your favorite.
My foot is like.
Wow.
I'm so sorry. No, I'm in the way. I'm like.
I do have a character that I enjoy. Have enjoyed in the past, and it's Krieg from the Borderlands 2 series.
Oh yeah, Krieg's great.
His battle yells are often filled with completely nonsensical rantings. I've got the shiniest meat bicycle. What does that actually mean? That's a lot of fun.
And specifically about your characters, if you guys could go back, you've been doing this for so long, if you guys could go back and had the opportunity to either do a different character or change your character's voice, would you?
Well, here's the funny thing about that. When I got cast, I was not aware of Goku's role in terms of being the lead, etc. And so Chris called me, and we were not friends at the time, so I didn't know Chris. And he's like, "Hey, Sean, you're gonna play Goku. You're gonna love this role." I'm like, "Are you sure about that? Because my Captain Ginyu audition was really great, and I think I nailed that role." And he's like, "No, trust me." He didn't say Goku's the lead. He didn't say you want this part because he was already pranking me. He's like, "Trust me, you're gonna love this part." And he didn't bother to tell me until 2 weeks into recording. He's like, "You realize you're the lead, right?" I'm like, "Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome." And now when we created the voice, it was totally surreal.
I should probably explain at this point that this wasn't the first time I talked to Sean.
Oh, that's true.
From the
'Cause I used
time
to
that
call
he
every day.
auditioned to the time that he got the role, because he called a couple times every day to find out if he'd gotten a role in the show
Which
yet,
is
which is like really the thing you do as an actor. It's like the most important thing to do is to
Follow
call
up.
the studio,
Follow up. That's the reason the phrase "Don't call us, we'll call you" exists, is because of guys like me. I don't do that anymore and haven't for a long time, but I did do that to you because I was so excited. I was like, "This would be great," you know. And as far as changing the voice, when we got cast, we were instructed to do our best impersonations of the Canadian cast because they wanted to keep vocal consistency to America. So would I do the voice differently? Well, here's the weird thing about that, and I've been an ADR director for anime as well, and I've run into this problem before where a character will have what is considered in a Japanese accent a hick accent, and then as a director or an actor, I'll give them a Southern accent, what we call a hick accent here, and then all the American fans hate it. I'm like, okay, well, how do we deal with this? Because Goku's supposed to be a hick. He's supposed to be from the, he's supposed to be a dumb hick. And the way the first actor played him was more like innocent and naive, which is part of the character also, and I was doing my best choice in that. But as we got into the series, every actor owns their character as time goes on. So by the time we got to the first Super Saiyan transformation, I decided that I was done, paying attention to previous actors, and I was going to do my own spin on it, and it slowly evolved into my thing. So if I could do it again without knowing all this, I would have probably tried to give him some kind of Southern or hicky. Whatever. Southern's not always hicky, and I'm not saying I'm from the South, so I have a lot of smart friends who aren't hicks, but that hick accent mentality in our culture is usually a Southern or some bum Egypt type of no, I'm not Egyptian, I'm skipping a word, but accent. And so digging, I'm trying to get out, but yes, I would have picked that, and then I would have got lambasted, and so I'm happy with how the character is played, and I'm glad I do it the way I do it. I don't know that I would have picked the voice I did for King Kai, because when I did that voice, they said, well, this is the guy Canada plays. It was it was Terry Clausen who played it. And I said, well, that sounds like a guy doing a Buddy Hackett impression who's an old school comedian. And I was like, I'm just going to do my best Buddy Hackett impression. And he talks like this. He's just like, he's got big jowls. So then I went to Buddy Hackett's website. I think he's dead now, but he wasn't. And I listened to the Buddy Hackett website to see how close I was. And it just sounds like King Kai telling a bunch of dirty jokes. And so I was like, wow, I was closer than I thought. So I might have picked a different voice for King Kai had I done it. But this is a unique situation where we were, like, Jason got to just come up with a voice. So he's lucky.
Well, I kind of have to admit that we didn't hold a lot of auditions for Beerus because this happens a lot where the video games kind of make us have to rush our casting a little bit because the video games are always either coming out in Japan before we even have a chance to dub the episodes. And all they would tell us at that time was, they wouldn't tell us very much about the character. They said, here's a sample of his voice. And I had listened to it and immediately thought, that sounds a lot like Jason Douglas as a Japanese guy. And he had been working on Borderlands at our studio for a while, and so he was instantly the first choice, and he sounded so good that we never really.
You were just like, screw it.
Yeah, we didn't even go back. We were sold on it. Plus, with Dragonball now, it's such a huge show. We've had so many of Funimation's best actors are in that show. At this point, whenever there's new characters, all we're really doing is scanning around the actor pool to see like, who are the strongest possible actors to play these roles that we think are actually going to stick around for the next 15 years. And so Jason was definitely on the short list of people that we really
I was actually
in
nervous about Jason because I did not know him or his work. And I thought, if Chris had to cast this off the cuff and I got to deal with a scene where I hate this guy's acting or his voice, I'm going to hate Chris and I was really nervous. I'm like, who is going to play this big part? And then when I heard it, I'm like, oh my God, he's probably better than me. I better up my acting game. This guy's awesome. I totally said that. I said, oh shit, I'm gonna have to really. I was glad though, because I was like, I'd rather have a guy be better than me than worse. And so I was really blown away.
I've only ever been about like, I just want to make it as good as it can be so that it ramps up to where these guys have been for the last 18 years or whatever. So for me, it's always been about, and that's why when I do my sessions, I'll say, I don't like that, or let's try that again, and it'll be something that sounds right, and we can just move on. But I'm often find myself going, you know what? Let's slow down here and let's do it right, because I feel like I want to be on the level that these guys are at, but I also feel like the fans have a certain expectation.
They do.
And so I don't want to just say, that's good enough. It's never just good enough. It needs to be as good as it can be, and we need to take the time to do it. And sometimes
now, are you like me, Jason, in the sense that, and this is what I was concerned about, and I was so happy you brought it. What I was concerned about is, and this has been my concern since playing the characters, since we're dubbing versus prelay, I'm trying to keep my vocals matching the intense animation going on. And I always feel like I'm just kissing the surface, but I never quite make it. And then I'm like, okay, and I know I'm pushing as hard as I can. I'm like, if this new Jason guy doesn't do this, I'm going to be screaming my head off. If he doesn't bring it, this is not going to match the animation. I was worried. He brought it and matched me, and in some cases exceeded me. I'm like, okay, now we have a show. And I was just astounded by Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, especially when I had to do the scene with King Kai and Goku talking to Beerus when he shows up. And I was like, how is this going to play out? Because I didn't know anything about Jason. I didn't, Chris, I just trusted Chris. And I was like,
You trusted him after he pranked you?
What's that?
You trusted him after he pranked you?
Chris is one of those guys that I've had major trust issues with Chris, and through that process, because we're dear friends, I have had major trust issues, but that's because of my own weird psychology. No, but that's through my weird psychology, but he's probably one of the people I trust most in the whole world now. Because he's pranked me, because we've been through so much together, it's like, I know he might prank me, he might push the boundaries, he's gonna have my back. So I have never worry about that anymore. And for years I did, because I didn't understand his brand of teasing, because I'm so thick, I'm just so much like Goku when it comes to being just clueless about people messing with me, or are they really messing with me? Are you messing with me, or are you really? And now I just totally get it. So he's really helped me as a person grow beyond being totally, pain in the ass, I think, and I'm grateful for it. If it wasn't for this guy, this ragtag cast, so to speak, I like to call it, because we've had to piece it together and keep it together for 18 years, wouldn't be happening without this guy and our producer, Justin Cook. It would not have, we would not have had this consistent cast and this legacy and this incredible effect we've had on fans without these two people in particular, in my opinion. Having watched the politics and watched the show and watched everything for all these years. And so I think we owe
You're welcome, guys. You're welcome.
Especially Justin Cook.
It was my idea for Dragon Ball Z in the first place, to be honest. I called Japan. I said, I got this idea about this monkey dude or whatever, and he's got this best friend named Vegeta.
But before I forget, I tangentialized. What I was going to ask you is that I'm trying to match the animation. Right. Did you feel that way too? You're watching like, oh my God, this is intense. How are my vocals going to match this visual?
Yeah, I've always
Sorry, Chris,
been a visual sort of ADR.
Yeah, me
myself,
too. Yeah.
What I see, and it's not necessarily what I'm hearing our sort of counterparts doing.
Yes.
I'll use that as a guide sometimes if I'm in the weeds and I'm not sure. But for me, it's got to match what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's got to match. Yeah. And that's and I've done some prelay work where they want us to do reactions and then animate to it. And so many times I've done prelay work where the animation does not match what I did. I'm like, dude, let's just record the lines. You draw it, and then I'll match it. And a lot of these prelay shows could take a cue from dubs that would make those better. Because seeing it just makes it so, you're going to fall down a cliff. There it is. And you just do it, and then it's there. You're screaming or you're powering up. It's so much easier than you're going to have to imagine it all and then hope the animator gets your vision right. I'd rather just match the animator's vision because it's easier and it makes more sense. And so I'm just glad that Jason's here and he brought it in the way that he had. And I think it's a huge part of why Battle Gods and Resurrection F are so successful, in my opinion.
And me too.
And Chris. And
Chris.
Chris.
Me.
And it's cheese and my Bulma. Exactly. Those three lines and the bingo song.
Yeah, good.
Now, I have one final question for you guys. Who's the better daddy, Vegeta or Goku?
Goku is a terrible father who probably is a sociopath who got hit on the head and decided he only likes fighting. And Vegeta has evolved into a better father.
He's still not a good father by
not.
any standard. So if you're thinking about having children, do not model your parenting style after Vegeta. I would say the best father in the show is actually someone who never had a child, and that's Piccolo. Piccolo's
also your character.
He's
the dad. He raised Gohan.
I want to see an episode of Dragonball where Child Protective Services shows up to Vegeta's house, and he's just like, well, yeah, we understand that you're letting your young son battle monsters from other planets. Just see how many Child Protective Service agencies he's annihilated. It would be hilarious, an episode where they show
Protect this!
Yeah. Or then Goku leaves his son in the woods with a strange green man from another planet.
That's just not cool.
Yeah, it's just a little bit, you know. But Goku was okay with it. He's like, you got to train.
I've been watching. I mean, I've been watching the show as it airs with my kids, and I do love that about the show is that despite the characters, you know, flaws as parents, the group as a whole is like a giant family. I mean, it's really cool. It always seems like just a big family reunion with all these young kids running around and then the you know, senior guys. It's great. So
it's a strangely multi-dimensional, it's like a multi-generational show where it's like father and son and father and son, and I think it predated most of the style of show that we're used to today, like you know, Walking Dead and 24 and Lost and those shows that had these long-running storylines. That didn't even exist, to my knowledge, on television until something like,
or at least in immense popularity.
Like, or at least in the cartoon world.
Yeah, especially a long serial like that, several hundred, you know. Versus Scooby-Doo is episodic, you know. They're always, or what any other American cartoons typically be episodic. So to carry that story arc and to have a long following, a cult following of millions of kids who are okay sitting through 2 weeks of Powering Up, you know, see who's stronger, and they love every minute of it, you know, and then they want to watch Kai. Oh, it's shorter. I'm like, no, but it's shorter. You can watch Kai faster. I'm like, no, we want to see all the driving episode. We want to. So they know what they like, and they know what they want, and so we're happy to give it to them, you know.
We were really lucky. Dragon Ball Z Kai is actually a show I'm really happy we got to work on too. I know we say Dragon Ball Z a lot, and that's what a lot of fans kind of rally around as far as nostalgia is concerned. Beginning to work on Dragon Ball Z Kai was remarkable because you never get a chance to take something you've dubbed and then you get to dub it again.
After you've had 10 years to get good at your character,
so
you know.
They use the best writers. They use a lot of the same writers from the series, but these writers are now 10 years stronger, and we're 10 years better actors, and with much better understanding. So I'd say if you really want the best Dragon Ball Z experience, you of course watch the orange boxes to know what everyone else watched when they were kids. Then watch Kai because you're getting the true story of what Dragon Ball
in
what it really
1/3
was.
the time.
And yeah, it's also very efficient and extremely accurate. And then you can go right into Super. Perfect.
It all lines up, and you can do the Battle of Gods Resurrection F as a double feature, and then you're into Super, and boom, there you go. There's a whole 8 jillion episodes.
That's your formula.
There's
right
your
there.
formula.
You're welcome.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. It's been a pleasure. You guys are all awesome.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you so much. You guys have been great. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with everything trending in geek pop culture. Bye, guys.
It's right here.